Hi everybody, Nancy here. Today I want to talk about using ZoomNotes for sketchnoting. And if you don't know what that is, it is taking notes, or I'm going to give you a shortcut version of it. It's taking notes using pictures instead of words. You know, the traditional way when you're sitting in a class, you're sitting there writing as fast as you can to get all the words that the professor says or the whoever says. And for those of us, half the population probably, who are visual thinkers, just learn better and retain more if we have a picture of something. We see it as a picture anyway. And so just a page full of words are lost on me. You know, you give me a page full of words and I'm just going to ignore it probably. But if you put a picture in there, it's like, oh, okay. And well, let me show you an example. First of all, here's a website. This is just Jet Pens. It's a company that sells pens, talking about sketchnoting. I learned about sketchnotes probably 10 years ago. Sunny Brown did a TED Talks that was excellent. It was so good. But she talked about doodling in meetings. And it takes on lots of different names. She called it doodling. Another guy has coined the phrase sketchnoting. And teachers, I think, are calling it visual learning. And so there's lots of different flavors of it, but it's all basically the same thing. Getting the notes down as quickly as possible using pictures as opposed to text. Here's another, I just did a search on sketchnote examples, and here's what it pulled up. Just different pictures of people that have taken notes in meetings. And that's an actual profession. There are people that will go into a business meeting and stand at a whiteboard and draw the minutes on the whiteboard as it's happening. Now, kudos to those people. I am so impressed by anybody that can do that. I can't. I do visualize, I do see it in pictures, but it sometimes takes a minute for me to come up with a visual. And for example, this would be an example of what I did real quick to visualize why you would use ZoomNotes to do sketchnoting. And that's basically the whole point of this video. And so I will be repeating a whole lot of stuff that ZoomNotes users that are currently ZoomNotes users, it'll be old school and you won't learn anything. And I'm not going to teach you how to sketchnote. I'm going to show you things that sketchnotes that you could take advantage of while sketchnoting. So I was really kind of focusing more on the people that don't use ZoomNotes currently, but I want you to understand how wonderful it is for sketchnoting and that you might want to consider it. See, this picture right here is what I did real quick, and I would almost bet that a current ZoomNotes user can look at these pictures and pretty much tell what I'm talking about just by the picture. And so that's what it's for, all right? And honestly, if you haven't been aware of it, you can go to Pinterest and see all kinds of stuff there. And again, I just searched for it on the internet. It's an awesome tool for learning. It helps you retain what you... I'll give you an example. I did just for this purpose, to do this video, I decided I was going to do a sketch note of a sermon that I was listening to a couple of weeks ago. And I can remember the sermon now. Just by looking at this, I don't even have to read it. I now know what each one of those pictures means and what he said. And listen, if I was just taking notes, that sermon would have been long gone. I'm there, I hear it, but I don't retain it. But now I can look at this man and woman at a cooler and know exactly what he's talking about there, or the guy going down the stairs and God's protection. I can look at this and know right now what this sermon was about, and I can remember the reference of it, and mainly because I spent enough time with it, just trying to come up with how would I draw that if I needed to. Now, true sketchnoters do it on the fly, and that's why I'm so impressed. This was my on the fly version, and this was my final version. This is what I finally said, this is good. I can look at this and I can say, okay, I'm going to talk about this here, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you can follow the flow. So this was my final product for reasons of using it, and there's no words on it, well, except for etc, and of course the wide zoom notes at the top, but it's all pictures, and hopefully I'll be able to discuss each one of them just based on those pictures. All right, so let me go ahead and start doing that. Number 1 is the infinite whiteboard. If you're a sketchnoter, a true sketchnoting started with a 5x7 little notepad and pencil or pen. Actually, they go into a meeting with a pen and start drawing what they hear, and I am so impressed by that. But this gives you an unlimited workspace. You have the option. Now you have the option to, using a regular looking notepad or notebook, but you also have the option to write and draw anywhere on this page, and it just be unlimited. You don't have to turn a page, is what I'm saying here. So I want to show you what this looks like. If you look at that brown place, that's the actual area that ZoomNotes calls, this is the notebook. If you zoom in on the notebook, this is it. But because it has unlimited desktop, I'm able to use this whole thing. So way bigger, and I can go as big as I want to, and I'm not limited by space. That's the infinite whiteboard. Now, the next thing is the ability to use a grid when you're drawing and writing. If you want to stay straight, right now it's blank, but I can go here and change it to a grid or lines. It needs to be custom custom page. See, now it's on lines. I hope you can see it. It's real light, but it's certainly dark enough for me to be able to see it to use it. Or I can change it to see blank or lined or squares like a grid. You can have music lines. You can have isometric lines and a graph paper, which is, line squares inside of squares, so you can get really detailed if that's something that you would use. All right. So that's 2, the ability to do grids. The third thing, which I personally think is the reason to use ZoomNotes. There's a bunch, but this is the reason. It's the fact that you have access to symbols. If you have a library of symbols that you use for your sketchnoting already, you can put them in ZoomNotes right here in something like this and be ready at the drop of a hat. If the new speaker is this guy right here, I just select it and tap on it, and there it is. We have the picture already drawn. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to do anything. All I had to do is pull it from my little library, any one of these things. Now, right now, it's coming in really small, and that's because my area of paper is so huge. I mean, yeah. But if I tapped on it somewhere else, like here, it will expand to the size of the area that I tapped in. So if there is a particular size that you want to maintain, you have that ability to always get this particular item that size simply by clicking on that, dropping it there, and then moving it to wherever you want it. Otherwise, if you tap over here somewhere, it's going to stay small, and you can drag the corners and make it as big as you want to. But again, it's faster if you have a particular size that you want to maintain throughout the whole image. You can quickly and easily do that. I'm going to delete some of this stuff, try to keep it clean. You have the ability to, well, first of all, you have the ability to store it in folders. Let me go back to it. This is in a folder. If I close that out, see, I've got all these folders full of images that if I needed to get something really quick, now you have to kind of know where things are. You have to name it. You have to be smart about how you name it. You know, if I were doing a thing about, if I were doing a Bible study and I wanted to show a bunch of people, then I would come here and tap on that, and I've already got the people drawn. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to do anything. But now I can close that back out and go back to my Sketchnote regulars, and it is under Sketchnotes. And see, inside this folder, I have another folder that is this. While I was doing the sermon I showed you, I was coming up with different ideas for different things that I would use later. And all I have to do is select it. Right now, I've got the crowd selected, and because I'm currently open to this folder, if I do the plus down at the bottom, it will add that. So if you come up with a drawing that you want to save as a symbol later, I might need that later. All you have to do is do just exactly what I just did. Select it and put it in the folder with a plus sign, or you can do it with this option. If you have it selected on this menu right here is create new symbol. I just did it again. So if I open this up, it's the smiley face. See, I've got both of those symbols right there. So simple. Now, what I would want to do is click on the name of it and change the name to like crowd, so that later, if I don't remember what folder it's in, all I have to do is go up to the top layer and search for it. Just type in crowd, search, and there are my different things that have crowd in the name of the image. So it's pulling from all the different folders that I've got already. And just as quick as that, you can put, well, all of these are the same crowd actually, but here's one. If I want to put that suddenly in my picture, I have that option. Oh, and you also have the ability, see, this is why I can look at my little picture here and say, oh, I need to remember to talk about that. See the heart? You can save favorites. You can save a favorite over on the left. Let me select it again. See, over on the left, I've got the far left. If this were closed, I have a stop sign right there that I want to be able to say, I use that a lot, so I'm going to put that over in my favorites. If I use the United States a lot, I select it and stamp it down, and this time I stamped it in that square that was already waiting there, and it came out that size. Otherwise it would come out that size. All right, so you can save favorites so that every single time you start a lecture, you've got your favorites on the left, and you can just start going ahead and using them immediately. And now I am going to talk about favorites, because you have favorites of everything. You can save your favorite pens. You see down here right now, I've got, if I have a pen selected, I can save it as a favorite. See, the colors are there. You can change those to any color that you want in a document. So if I always want to use the blue for ZoomNotes notes, then I would have blue in this field, and I could just quickly change that to a blue, kind of a royal blue. So now I'm ready to write with a blue pen. And that's always going to be there for a favorite. All right, now I can do it with a favorite font. If always I use the same fonts, this is by size, and I have them grouped in different groups. See, if I look here, I've got groups. I've got handwriting fonts, I've got fillable fonts, I've got monogram fonts, and I've got fonts that I use when I take notes for my Bible, which are, you know, the pen that I want to use, the color I want to use, the size I want to use. Those are all saved there. They're ready for me to grab and just start writing, and it will always be the same for that particular circumstance. So perfect for sketchnoting, all right? Tables, same thing. If I have a favorite table that I always want to draw, see, I can save those. Here are some of my favorites. I drew that one for a specific purpose, so now I've always got that, and it's ready to just stamp there. So I can do tables that way. If I have, I don't know if you are aware, but my drawing is actually two separate tables. They're both round, they're circular. So all I have to do is change the font, the table that I've got created already, and just change it to a circular one, and now I've got a round table. Okay, so tables, and then the fill. If I have favorite colors that I always want to fill with, like right now I'm using this blue to fill up these things as I come to them. I want to highlight them. I'm sorry, I'm getting rid of that. If I change the fill bucket and I set that, go to saved, and I do plus, it will add that blue to this list of colors that I had created for a different purpose. But now, if I want to fill this up, all I have to do is tap, and it fills the open area with whatever color that I choose, or even an image. If I want to put, let's say I choose this right here, and I copy it, and that will put that onto the pasteboard. So I do copy, and I decide, instead of filling that area with color, I've already done that, but on top of it, I'm going to add that scribble that I just created. So if I tap on that now, see that scribble is now added on top of the filling, and I can make it smaller. Now, that's not a great example simply because it's too light. So if I need to get something else onto my, let me do something different. If I go back to the crowd and I stamp that here, and I have that selected, and I do a copy with it, I go to my tools. Now I get the menu for that and do copy. That has put it onto the clipboard. I go back to the bucket, and do from pasteboard. Now I've got that crowd of people that all I have to do is tap on the area, and it will fill that area with that crowd of people, and I can make it smaller or larger or whatever. And you know, that's not practical right now. You might not be able to see a use for it, but you see how helpful it is to do color. And you might think of something else that it would work perfectly for pictures. It's just that the ability's there. I'm just trying to clean things up as I talk here. I don't like for it to be too crowded. Well, I'll just do this because I'm moving on to linking now. I still need to delete that. Linking is another one of those favorites. You can link to the internet. You can link to a different page on your document. You can link to a function. You can get it to go to the next page, or you can get it to ask you what page do you want to go to. You can create bookmarks and link those bookmarks, and you can link document to document. So let me just show you what I'm talking about here. If I go to my church notes again, and I need to, this is an example actually of a link. That thing that you see, the 4 red squares, that is a link of that document that I want to go to. Sermon notes, there it is. All right, on this page, it is full of links to different locations. If I click on the Romans, if I have to have the 4-way pointer, that's the actual sermon that I was taking notes for. If I click on the sermon notes, it takes you to the sermon notes for that particular sermon that I was taking notes on. Now, I will tell you, these came in real handy when I came back to clean up that sermon notes, because he kind of went through this list right here. All these words, eschatological, I can't even say these words. And, you know, so forget trying to write them down. But here they are right here. And I drew a little picture of what that meant, because he will eventually, honestly, this guy's the best in the world to watch for doing sketchnoting, because he speaks in pictures. He will tell you an example, like for instance, the guy standing at the water cooler lusting after the girl. You know, he said that. I didn't have to think of that as an example of lust. He used it, and he used the stepping down into sin, you know, so it was great. Usually you have to come up with a picture of something. An example, a guy that I watched on a video the other day said that he needed to have the word trust, and how do I draw the word trust? And one of his students in his class said, well, this is what I would do. I would draw stick figures. And this is also another thing about ZoomNotes. I mean, about sketchnoting. Stick figures are a staple. They're required. That is it. That's all you have to be able to do. And then do another row. And, you know, you're doing this while you're listening to him talk. And I would try to do it a little bit better than this. But anyway, you eventually get, I did too many on the bottom. But this person right here, actually everybody in this stack has to trust somebody else in it. So that was the example of how they would visualize the word trust. And that's pretty much the whole thing, is creating your own library of words and images that you would use for certain events. You know, if you're in a business meeting, you'd have a table with people sitting around it, and it's just stick figures. A lot of people that visualize things are not necessarily artists, but if you watch any sketchnote lecture, they will all say anybody can do this, and then they'll prove it to you. Okay, so linking. I've got it linked to the web, which was, well, both of those examples were linked to the web. But I can add a function. See, it's a function. If I do function, I can go unlink. I can start a zoom tool. I can go to the next page, previous page, page manager, go to page, exit subdocument. Those are the different things you can do using the function. If I went to the web, now that is where you would need to have the URL already, and that's why I would need to go here real quick. I'm listening to this sermon, and he talks about Deuteronomy 28. So if I type that in, I wish I had an easier word to spell. Deuteronomy, I think that's it, 28. He mentions, be sure and read that. So if I click on here, see, now it automatically brings me to this. Now I can create a link just by getting the URL. Copy. I just put my pen on the BibleGateway.com, and that pulled up the option to copy. So I copied it. Now I go back to ZoomNotes and I do from pasteboard and I do create. Now I have just created a link to Deuteronomy 28, which is right here. I listed in my notes. So if I go to my little four-way plus sign or a four-way arrow and tap on it, see, it opens up Deuteronomy 28. How cool is that? And you saw how fast I did it, and that was me doing a bunch of talking. If I hadn't been talking and I was just focused on getting that job done, it would have been just so quick. Another reason why you really want to use ZoomNotes. I'm telling you, this note-taking tool is unbelievable. All right, then, reason number 6 is page in page, or in this case, I'm going to show you a document inside of a document. If you look right here on this toolbar that I'm moving around, there's a plus sign, a page in page like that. If you click on that, it will open up a whole nother place to put stuff. And in this case, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to open this up and I'm going to import a whole nother document. And I'm going to import a ZoomNotes document. I decide that I want to always have access to the help document in ZoomNotes, for ZoomNotes, I should say. This one right here, if I click on that and I click on all and then do import, it now has imported all these pages. If I go back, I select one and I go back. Now I've got a document that's 211 pages. I think that's what it said. Yeah, no, 111 pages. Go back. And that is part of my current document. But again, looking at this right here, if I click on the up sign, it will bring it. So now this document, I can reduce it in size. And, you know, I'm thinking in terms of something that you might use if the professor references another document that, or PDF file that he has shared with the group beforehand in a different class. You can quickly add that document to your notes simply by doing what I just did. Go out, find it, and pull it in. Now, if it's down here, I've moved it to the bottom. If I double tap on it, it opens it up, and now I can go to any of the pages within that document. I can even search on it. I can look for a favorite, you know, a word within that document. Let's see if I do iCloud, just because I see it. I can do a quick search on iCloud everywhere it finds it within this document. So here are all the different places, the pages that iCloud is listed within the document. All right, so you have that searchability. Now I'm going to go back up to the original layer, my original thing, just by clicking on the up arrow. And I've just talked about, under this I also have a couple of other things that I don't know if they're really categorized as page in page. They kind of are. But if I want to include, very quickly, include a map in my document, then all I have to do is go to my little tools up at the top. Now I could put this particular icon, see this one, map, I could put that on my toolbar at the top. I just don't, because I don't use that many maps. But if I wanted to include it in my Sketchnotes, all I would have to do is click on the map, and it brings me to a worldwide map. Now I can search anywhere in the world for something. If he's talking about, well, if he's talking about Israel or somewhere over here at the Middle East, then I can have this version. This is the hybrid. Well, I'm not in the Middle East. It's hard to tell when it's zoomed out. Okay. All right. Here. There's what I'm talking about. I can do it that way. I can do it satellite, where you're actually looking at a picture of it. I mean, seriously, I have been able to zoom in and get, you know, the pyramids. So cool. And then do standard, which is just a regular old map like this. let's say that's what I want, and I do done, that will pull into my document, and now I've got that in part of my notes. I did it that quick. Now if I decide that that wasn't exactly what I wanted, I decided I do want to actually zoom in and see it, I can go back here and do update map image, and I want to see street level. See, there's the street names over here. If I needed that map anywhere with actual street names, there it is. And then I just do done, and it's saved. All right, that's maps. Now, if I wanted to include a picture of a website, let me show you how I could do that. Now, if I go back to the little tools up at the top and do web, now see, it brought me straight to this page. Now let's just say I want to include the actual text here. I can do a grab and just select this right here and do done, and a picture of that text shows up. If I decide I want something else, I can go back and go back to the, it's selected, update web image, and if I want to go to a different location, I don't know, someplace else, let's go to YouTube. All right, so now it brought me to YouTube, and I can say I want the visible, I want to be able to save a copy of what I can see right now. So I just do visible area, and now that picture is going to change to that image there. Okay, you can do that on the fly. All right, so that's the page-in-page things that you can do instantly. The next thing I want to talk about is the sound that you can add a recording. Again, I did that with this document here. Let me go to it. As he was creating a list, if you're in a class and suddenly the professor says, now I'm about to give you 5 ways to do something, all you have to do is open up the sound. This list over on the top right, it's the third icon from the right. It's like a little speaker thing looking thing, and it opens up this recording bar. And to get it to start recording, you just tap on it like that, and as long as that line is going through it, you know that it's doing recording. And you can also look here and see over on the right side the numbers getting bigger. Now as soon as I want to stop it, I just click on the microphone again where it's got the line, click on that, and it will stop recording. And it puts this little speaker so that now all you have to do is put it where you want it and listen on it like that. And as long as that line, see, that's what I was saying as I was talking. Now this is something I recorded.
From Genesis to Revelation, the wrath of God is revealed in 5 different categories.
Okay, that's something that I recorded while I wanted to have what he said about each one of these items on this list. I have it recorded, and all I had to do was hit that record button. Love that. So if you're in a lecture and all of a sudden you're getting overwhelmed by what's happening, you can quickly record what's being said and have it there for later, so that you, when you have more time to think about it, you know, how many times have you been in the middle of drawing a picture and now all of a sudden he's onto something else, and you need to catch it? Well, just push on that little microphone and you're ready to roll. Okay, the final thing that I'm going to talk about, and this one can be just as important or more important than anything else I've talked about, is screen projection. If you have the need to display what you're doing as you're doing it, you have that ability with ZoomNotes. Now, you know, you would connect it however you connect your audio visual, but what you would want to do on your iPad to get things set up, you have the ability to do a split screen where you have the same document in both areas. I'm going to click on the tools up at the top, and on the second thing, view tools, split horizontal, split some way. I think it was horizontal. Okay, if I select the same exact image or the same exact document that I'm working on and displaying, the one on the right is what, let me close this up. The one on the right is what the viewer sees, what your audience can see. The one on the left is what you're working on. And the beauty of that is they're not distracted by you doing all this business, zooming in and moving around and getting it so that you can actually use it. But they have the ability to see what you draw or you do over. Now watch, if I show you, if I draw this little guy, you'll be able to see it real time. And so your audience can see that going on. Now you might have to adjust your screen depending on, but you can do that manually. Just, you know, move it with your fingers. And I can move this side in and out, and they never ever see what's going on over here. So simple, so easy. So I'm sorry, but that to me is amazing. That is what you want to be able to do. All right, and that's it. I'm going to stop here, otherwise it'll get way crazy long. I'm sure there's hundreds of other reasons why you would use ZoomNotes to do sketchnoting. That's the highlights. All right. Y'all have a great day here. Bye.